Well, hello and welcome to the Let's Create Art Paint Along. Today we're going to get a little festive for the holidays and we're going to paint an adorable little penguin sitting on snow. So to begin with, you want to make sure you have all of your paint colors. You want to have a cup of water so we can wash our brush off. You also want to have some kind of a paper towel or a cloth that you can dry your brush on after you pull it out of the water. It's really important that we always dry off our brush before we go into the acrylic paint. Acrylic paints are made with glue in them, and it just doesn't like water. So if we get water in our paint, all of the paint just kind of gets messed up, and then it doesn't attach to our canvas right, and it just looks kind of yucky. So make sure that we always dry off our brush anytime that we pull it out of the water, from rinsing it, switching colors, anything like that. You want to make sure that you dry off your brush, and then you just kind of wipe it in like this rather than like drying it off like that. Okay. So to begin with, we are going to start with our background. We always start with the furthest away and then move forward. So in this painting, the background is going to be the sky and the snow. And then we're going to work towards the penguin, the hat, and then the little candy cane heart that he's holding in the middle is the closest thing to us. So you also want to make sure that you have your area protected. If you happen to get paint on the surface of anything, wipe it up as soon as you see it instead of letting it dry. And you may also want to have a blow dryer nearby. The blow dryer is going to come in handy for two reasons. One, we want to make sure anytime we make a mistake or we're gonna try to correct something, we want to blow dry it. We want the paint that's there already to be dry before we put any paint on top of it. Otherwise, it's gonna mix and make a different color, a different shade, and it just doesn't cover up really smooth and nicely. So we always want to make sure if we have a mistake that we want to fix, just take a pause, blow dry it, and then paint on top of dry paint. Another reason we would use a blow dryer is because when we're painting, we want to do more than one coat. So when you are first painting, the paint is going to be soaking down into the fibers of the canvas. And as it soaks down into the fibers of the canvas, then you're gonna see that canvas start popping out. Your brush stroke is also really vivid your first go around. So what your brush stroke is like where you lay the brush, go, and then pick it up. So if I was going like this, I would have really short brush strokes. If I was going like this, we would have really long and smooth brush strokes. Either way is correct depending on the look you're going for, and you would use the short brush stroke method better with one layer of paint than if you're looking for a really smooth, solid background. You definitely are going to want 2 layers of paint. So that's why the blow dryer is going to come in handy. Okay, so let's start with our background. I'm going to do mine like purple into pink, but you of course can choose your color that you want in your background. And remember, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. That's what makes art so amazing, is that your creativity and your vision is just as good as anyone else's. Okay, I am going to start with purple up here in the darker top area, and then we're going to move lighter into like more of a pink towards the bottom. The line across here is my horizon line, so that's where the sky is meeting the ground. And down here is going to be snow. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to only go to right at that line. I'm going to stay above the line and not go down below it. Okay, so to make purple, you can use pink and blue. You can mix pink and blue to get purple, or you can also use red and blue. If you already have a purple pre-mixed in a bottle, that works too. And then if you're wanting a darker shade, you can add a tiny touch of black or brown to kind of darken it up. And then if you want more of a blue tint, you're gonna have more blue than you would pink or red. And then I'm just gonna start going across the top. And as we're doing this, we wanna be mindful of our edges. So the edges are all the sides going around the canvas. We wanna make sure we get those. And I'm gonna do kind of a smooth side to side brush stroke, and I'm gonna go all the way on and off the canvas in one stroke. That is gonna give you that smooth look. If I stop halfway in between and I pull my paintbrush off, it's going to leave that little line like in between. That may be a look you like. You may want some of that variation and texture and movement in your background, and that is completely fine. You just want to make sure that you're doing that all the way throughout. So you want the entire painting to look like it's cohesive, like it goes together, like it all was painted together. We wouldn't want a really choppy sky and then all of a sudden it turns really smooth. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going just around the drawing. I'm gonna come a little bit further down on this side because I did on that side. And then I'm gonna pick up pink and go right into it. And when it meets, it's going to blend and kind of melt together. And I'm just gonna kind of lightly go over that, and it just starts making a new shade, and it just gradually transitions into our pink. So we have darker purple gradually transitioning into pink. Now as we're going, you may decide that you want some purple down here in your pink. You may decide that you want to add a little bit of white and make your pink like lighter. That is completely fine and okay. And then don't forget your edges while we're doing this. We want it to come all the way off the side and wrap around the canvas because we want some nice, clean, professional looking masterpieces. All right, so I'm gonna go over to my other side and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm grabbing my pink and I'm gonna come on this side. And the trick to blending is you need to make sure that your paint is wet. So when we get over here to this side, if the purple has already dried, we would want to add a little bit more purple to the canvas so that our purple is wet when it meets that pink. And that way we can get just a nice fade into, or a blend down into the rest of the area. So little bits of paint can go a long way. If you find that you have really thick globs or ridges on the front of your canvas, you just want to take a brush with no paint on it and smooth it out. Make sure I'm getting all my edges over here. And then I'm gonna just gradually go right over where it starts fading up into the purple. Now, as I'm looking at it, I can already tell the areas that are drying, and I know it definitely has to have a second coat because as the purple areas start soaking into the canvas, it's not as shiny anymore. And I can see these little white bubbles and texture popping through my canvas and through the paint. So at this point, I would put my brush in the water so it doesn't dry out, and I would hit the pause button and I'm gonna blow dry it, and then I'll come back and I'm gonna do the exact same process that we just did a second time. So I am going to hit the pause button and give it a good blow dry. Okay, so my first coat is dry. It's completely dry. It's not shiny anywhere, and we can really see it looks kind of streaky, and it just needs a little more love. So we're gonna do the exact same method that we did the first time. And so the first time I mixed some pink with blue to get my purple, and then I started the darker purple up here across the top. And so I'm just going to do the same thing. And I did really smooth all the way side to side strokes. And as you're painting, you're gonna start noticing that it really just looks a lot better with a second coat. So make sure that you have plenty of paint on your brush. You wanna make sure that you have enough paint that your canvas is getting coated with the paint. And then we also wanna make sure that we don't have too much, because we don't want really thick ridged lines in our canvas. So I'm gonna go down to about there with my purple and come back to the other side and do the same thing. I'm gonna get as close to my drawing line as I can. And then I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna get just the pink, and I'm gonna start the pink and fade it. So I'm just kind of brushing and blending until it's a nice, soft, smooth transition, and there's no really hard to find line. So over here, there's like a really straight line. There's purple and then there's pink. And then over here, you can see it just gradually starts changing into a different color. So this is a fade or a gradient, and this is just like a two-toned block. So when you're blending, you want it to just gradually fade. Whoop. Went over my toe. Penguin's got a toe down. It's all right. We can make sure that we dry it, and then we can paint right over it. All right, so over here on this side, same thing. Just brush until that line becomes a soft change of color. All right, so I'm gonna give it one last check. I'm gonna make sure that I'm checking all the edges, and I'm gonna make sure that all of my background had a second coat and everything looks smooth and it just looks like it transitions. And I don't have anything on the sides that look like it's missing paint. We want that to be coated also. And then I am going to give the top one last good blow dry. And the reason we're gonna dry at this point is because our next step, we're gonna go down into white here, and we really don't want to pull like a lot of pink or purple down into our snow, because the white will get overtaken really fast. It's like the quiet kid that sits in the corner and just kind of gets like lost. So we want to make sure that our brushes are really clean and that everything on our canvas is really good and dry, so that we don't lose that white, because we want him to be in some fluffy snow. So make sure that you take a minute and blow dry your canvas again. Get it really dry, especially right here where it's going to meet the white. And then also wash out your brush. So if you need to go take it to the sink and wash all of your paint out, then go ahead and do that now. Or if you can just get it clean out of your bucket, then just do it that way. We just want to make sure that when we dry our paintbrush off on our paper towel, there's no purple and pink, blue, whatever color you used in your background coming out onto our paper towel. So push the pause and go take care of those couple things. Okay, so our canvas is good and dry, and we have our brush all the way cleaned out. We are going to go down into the snow. So for the snow, we are going to start with white, and we're just going to cover all of this canvas. Now, I know it's really hard to see where you're putting white on top of white. So the way that you can tell is wherever it's shiny is the paint. So if you see an area that looks really like shiny and kind of wet looking, that is the paint area. And then anywhere where it's not shiny, that is just the raw canvas. So our goal here is to try to get all of the canvas to be shiny, covered with the paint. So I'm just going side to side and getting really close to our drawing. And then the next step, you have two options. You can use blue, or you could use a little bit of the pink, like a reflection from the sky, or you can use the black to get gray. Now, no matter which color you're choosing to use, you want to use hardly any of it at all. So when you look at your brush, it should look like you don't have really anything on there. And I'm going to kind of show you. I'm going to get just a touch of blue, and I'm just barely getting the tips of the bristles in the paint. So you can see doesn't look like I have any paint on there at all, but right along the very edge is some blue. And so for this, we're gonna add just like little bits of shadow, little bits of like depth into our snow. So there's two ways you can do it. You can kind of do like padding. So I'm keeping the brush kind of flat and just barely padding on to that wet white, and it's gonna mix and blend just like this. And so I still have a lot of white, but there's just little areas of blue or pink or gray, whichever color you're choosing, coming through. And that's just gonna give that depth. So anytime that we have something that looks white or just looks green, like clouds, they look just like they're white poofs. But really, if you look really close, they aren't just white, like poofy things. There's actually reflection colors, and there's just different tones in them. So that's what we want to reflect down here in our snow. And so I'm just gonna randomly kind of pat along here. And the more I pat, the more it's gonna make a solid color, and the less I pat, the more it's gonna stand out. Now, if at this point, if you accidentally got too much paint color and it's like really bright or really dark and it's just too much, now is when you would go take a pause, blow dry it, and then come back and just add a little white over it. So if at this point, if I did, let's see, a really big dark blue blob, I'm gonna wash my brush off or wipe it off. I'm gonna get some white and I'm gonna tap it out. But as I tap it out, you can see it's just pulling that dark blue around my whole canvas. So I would want to take a pause and dry it and then come put white back on top of it. So you just kind of work on your snow however long you want and get it to looking like whatever makes you cheerful and happy and snowy. And then blow dry it, and then we'll move on to our little adorable penguin. And don't forget your edges. Make sure that you paint the white on the edges of the canvas. That way it'll help the fabric be protected from any dirt or grime or smudges or anything. It'll just kind of wipe right off the paint. So make sure that you still are painting all the way along the sides of the canvas also. Alright, so whenever you're good with your snow, just push the pause and come back, and we are going to start our penguin. Okay, so now we've done the background and we've done the snow, and we're going to move on to our little penguin friend. So to begin with the penguin, we're going to use a smaller brush since we're moving to a smaller, more detailed area. And we are going to start with the white of the penguin's body. So go ahead and grab one of your smaller brushes, and then we're gonna pick up some white paint, and we are going to do the penguin's face and his little belly here that's white. So just start putting the white on the white areas of the penguin. Now, as we're painting the penguin, we want to keep in mind that we always want to paint in the direction of the object. So in this case, we want to make sure our brush strokes are going up and down because he is long. We don't want to paint side to side. We want people to see his long belly here. So all this little middle section here is just his white little bright belly. And it's gonna stay pretty white. And then his face up here is also white. So there's gonna be a little bit of black on the edges, but the majority of his face is white. And I want to make sure that I'm painting in the shape of a face. So shapes are kind of round. So when we're out here on the edges by the cheeks, you want to make sure that your brush stroke is going kind of curved, kind of like a C. And then we also want to make sure that it's smooth. We don't want any thick globs or ridges of paint. Now we are painting with white. So if you accidentally get over your drawing, it is fine. It will show through still. So now we're here in the middle, and we're gonna kind of go up and down. And then as we go out to this other side of his face, we're gonna curve the other way. So we're gonna follow right along his little cheek and down his chin. Just like that. All right. And then right in the middle of this heart is the rest of his underbelly. So go ahead and put the white right in the middle. Just like that. Okay, so we are going to kind of skip around at this point, and we're going to go over to his hat, and we're going to start putting in the red for his hat. So this part of his hat is red. This part is going to be white, and we'll come back to that in a minute, but we're going to do the red part of his hat first. So there's no wet paint anywhere around it, so it's not going to end up touching anything. So we're okay to just kind of leave this and move over here. Just be mindful of your hand. You don't want to set your hand down in this wet paint. If you're nervous about it, just push pause and then dry it, and then come back and join us for the hat. All right, so for the hat, I'm gonna do mine a Santa's hat, but of course you have the freedom to choose whatever you want your hat to be. I'm going to use the red, and I'm gonna start up here, and I'm gonna just follow it around just like the hat is. And so you can do the outside edges of the hat and then come back and fill in the middle part if you feel like you want to do that. And don't worry about getting it like completely straight on the edges, because it is fabric and it flows and there's folds and there's bends. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a really straight line on the edge. Alright, so I came all the way down, and now I'm kind of just working up, and I'm following the curve of the hat as I paint. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like right here, it's curved this way. And then it starts going around, and then comes down like that. So keep in mind the flow and the curve of whatever you're painting. And sometimes it gets a little confusing and a little tricky on where everything goes. So if you need to outline it, that helps see where you're putting your color in the middle. And then when you're in the middle, the longer the stroke you do, the smoother it's gonna look. So try to go all the way as far as you can before you lift your brush up. Now we're gonna come around here to the top, right along this top line here. And we wanna go all the way to our background color. So make sure that there's no white space between the red and whatever background color you chose. You want to make sure that that is painted all the way, so it looks like he's on top of, and there's no like missing space in between. All right, so depending on what color you did, you maybe got away with one coat. If you did the red, you probably aren't going to get away with just doing one coat of red. Red is kind of a transparent color, meaning that you can see through it fairly easy. So we are going to leave this be for the minute and let it dry, and then we can come back and work on it one more coat. So while that's drying, this has already dried. My face and my belly is already dry. So I am going to wash the red out of my brush, and I'm gonna start doing the black area of the penguin. So I'm gonna make sure I get it really good and clean. And then I'll pick up the black, and I'm just gonna start down on this side, and I'm gonna work this way so that when I get over here, some of this red will already be dry. But black is dominant, so it's gonna cover up whatever color anyway. So right in here, there's a little bit of the penguin's face that is black, and we're gonna fill that little section up. It's kind of just like an almond shape, really. And you can use, like, if you need to use multiple brushes, or if you'd rather just use Sharpie for any lining, you can always do that. So I'm gonna just follow it down to about right there. And then this little area is part of the white part of the hat. So right here is also gonna be a side of his face that is black. And if you didn't dry your canvas, just keep in mind of where your wet paint is so that you're not laying your arm down in it. So this is the fine detail part. This is where we're in the little bitty sections and we want to go slow and careful and stay detailed. And then as far as you can go in one swipe is going to give you that smoother look. Just like that. And then I'm going to even this out a little bit as it comes around so it gets thinner. All right. And then this little thing on his head is also like black. It's like a black spot. So we'll fill that in. And then his eyes, we are going to do black as well. And then as we're painting with the black, if we are getting it coated really well the first time and you're not seeing any white bubbles pop out, you probably will not have to do a second coat of any black. So as we're doing this, just make sure that you're getting it good and coated on the first go around and you're not seeing any little black spots. So there's one eye. Here is the other. All right, and then I'm gonna move down here to his side and his arm. So the arm goes like this, and I'm gonna paint it going up and around. And then we'll go down to here. And then in order to get the arm to stand out, since it looks like the belly and the arm are both all black, it just kind of blends in to be like one big blob. And so we want that arm to stand out. So we're gonna have to take like tiny bit of white, which makes a gray, and we're gonna do it right along top of where his arm goes. So wherever that line was is where we're gonna put a little bit of gray on there. And then that's gonna bring his arm forward from the back. So just little bits of the white will make it lighter. So that's where our shadow and our highlights make a difference. So back here in the back is gonna be the dark, the pure black, and then as we move up here to the front of the arm, it's gonna have a little bit more white on it. And then we're gonna come down here and fill this in. And if your paintbrush is getting clogged with paint, then it's gonna kind of make it harder to get a really soft, straight, thin line. Wipe it off on the paintbrush and then grab a little bit more paint. All right, and then if you want to keep adding some white on him, then just add little bits of white, kind of like dots on him, and it'll look like he's been playing in the snow. And it'll help with your highlights and shadows. Just remember, we got to keep some spots purely dark. So in the back area, we want it to be dark. And then in the front area, the top area where the light would hit, you can make it lighter. All right, so now I'm going to move over to the other side, and we're going to put this arm in. And it just kind of lightly goes over the candy cane heart because he is holding that. So it has to be back behind and under his hand or paw or arm or whatever the little penguins have. Alright, and then down here, and go right up to his little foot, around his belly, in between his toes, and then right up to that hat. Okay, so on this side, we want to take the white and add in some highlights. So I'm just doing little bits of white, which are making it turn gray, but not like really bright gray, just a little off. So you may not be able to see the difference in the camera because it is kind of close, but you'll be able to see it on yours for sure. All right, put a little bit down here. So it looks like his body goes together. I'm playing in the snow, so. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush out, and then I'm going to jump back over, and I'm gonna do another coat of that red. So I'm gonna go back to my bigger brush, but you can use your smaller brush. Oh, we're doing red. And I'm gonna grab some red, and then I'm gonna do another coat of red on here. And this time I already know where I'm going, so it's easier to go all the way through. And you can add little bits of black to get some darker areas, and then we're gonna add little bits of black to get some foldy areas. If you don't want to add the black for fold areas, then just skip that part. It is optional. It's just a way to kind of step up your hat. You can also do like something like polka dots on the hat. We are gonna do a really fun, like making it snow, so that would be really cool too. So if you don't want to do the black folds in the hat or the creases, then that is completely fine. Okay, so now that we have our red on our hat and it's all wet, we can take little tiny bit of black, and then we can kind of like create just some variation in the color, and that's gonna make it look like there's texture and depth and dimension, like it's folding. So whenever fabric folds, there's a dark area, there's a crease, and then there's a brighter area, a middle area, a lighter area. There's really all kinds of colors that come from a fold of fabric. So we just are gonna kind of lightly streak in a little bit of dark. That's good enough for me. So right here is where it starts to bend, and so there's kind of a straighter line right here and more defined. If you want to keep working with yours and make it more foldy or more curvy or whatever you want, that is fine. I am going to move on. I am going to rinse my brush out now, and I'm going to go back to my small brush. And I'm gonna do his little feet and his little beak. So make sure that you get it all the way rinsed out of any color, because we're going to yellow, which is similar to white. And it like will get tinted and colored and taken over really easy. So you can add a little bit of white to the yellow to make it a little less transparent. And then you can also add a little bit of red or pink and give it like an orangey tone if you want. Or you can just keep it bright yellow. It's up to you. I put a little bit of orange or red in mine to get a little bit of an orange tint. And now I'm just gonna do the whole entire mouth beak area. So it's kind of an oval like this, and then we'll come back and we'll put the smile in the mouth in through it. So just paint the entire oval, kind of looks like an Easter egg. Just paint that entire thing in. And the odds are you can still see any drawing lines through it because it is lighter like the white. And then I'm going to use that same color on his feet. So when you're painting the feet, remember like they curve. And so you want to paint in that direction. So they're coming out of his body. And we want to make sure we get it all the way up to the black part of his body. And then for his little toes, go ahead and do his little toes. Or you can have some big toes. And then we'll come in and we're gonna put some black lines in between. So they may look like weird right now and like they're running together, but they will turn into toes. Same thing on this side. Alright, so I don't see any white coming through the yellow area. So I am going to rinse my brush, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of red, and I'm going to make the candy cane part that he's holding. So to do that, I'm going to just put little dashes in. So just like that. And then I'm just gonna kind of go around and keep them evenly spaced apart as much as you can. And just put little stripes in, and it'll start making a candy cane. So as we're going around, we want to change the direction of the stripe. So as it comes down here, it's gonna start, it's gonna curve and start facing the other way. Just like that. So now you can kind of see one candy cane. I'm gonna get some more paint, and then I'm gonna do the same thing on this candy cane coming back around. And I'm gonna start right down here. And then work my way up. Starting to curve around now, so I'm just going to go with the curve here. Alright, and then we're going to put little black lines around that too. But now he has an adorable little candy cane heart he's holding. And then my red is dry and my black is dry, so I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna put the fluffy part of his hat in now. So wash out your brush really well, and then grab some white, and we'll start down here with this little ball. And I'm gonna just kind of do like tapping. So this little ball down here is fuzzy, and it's not really solid and smooth. So don't worry about having a really straight defined line. And I'm just gonna kind of tap it on. And then I'm gonna take a tiny bit of black and tap on it to give it kind of like a gray look, because it is sitting on the snow and we need it to kind of pop off of that snow. So we have to give it a tint. And then we can come back and add some more white on the top once we get the dark shadow underneath. Or we could leave it if we decide that it looks good. Alright. So there's the fuzzy ball at the end. And we're going to do this exact same thing across here. So lay down your white. He's wearing a really fuzzy Santa hat. So we want to make it wet with the white. And then we're gonna grab a little bit of black, and we're just gonna kind of randomly dot through. And I'm gonna wipe it off. I'm gonna grab a little bit of white, and I'm gonna go right over that, and it's gonna start spreading out and start making it kind of fuzzy looking. And then down here, this part of his hat is going to be darker because it's shadowed. And it's fuzzy, so it doesn't have like a really straight line. Kind of comes out of the lines a little bit. Alright, I'm going to wipe my brush off, I'm gonna pick some clean white up, and I'm gonna just barely put, I'm not gonna cover up all my gray. Just gonna put some thicker white on the top, and then you'll really start feeling like you see some texture. All right. And then we can come back down here to our little ball. Put some more fuzzy white in it. And then we're going to take some clean water. Well, the last step we're gonna do is add our little mouth line. So you can do that with a pen, you can do that with a paintbrush, you can do that with a black Sharpie. It's up to you, and whichever method you choose, just don't push really hard. Okay, so for the mouth, we're gonna do a line that goes right through the middle, like that. And then at the ends, you're gonna do the little half circles like that. Just like that. And then you can also do the same thing down here on the feet. So really thin line with pen, Sharpie, marker, paintbrush. I am hardly putting any pressure at all down. I'm just letting the tips of the brush do the work. So if you're using a Sharpie marker, you're gonna just let the very tip of the brush, the marker, do the work. And then with the brush, we're doing the same thing. Just the very tip of the brush. And then we're just tracing around the toes and the foot. So we got the line that goes across the middle. And then around the toes. Around this toe. And then we're going to go around the base of the foot. Just like that. And then you can do the same thing around your candy canes. So really lightly. And right here they kind of curve. And it meets and it curves. And now we're going up and around. So at this point you can get really detailed with all of your lines and your edges. And we're going to go right here, we got to separate them on the bottom. And up and around there. We're going to do this little edge here. Right on this back side, it already is meeting his belly, which is black, so we don't have to worry about that too much. We're going to go around the top here. And the same thing over here. Just like that. And then we're going to take the back of the paintbrush, we're going to dip it in the white, and then we're going to give him little bitty eye reflections. So the wrong end of the paintbrush gives you a really small dot. And then the very, very last step, you want to get some clean water, and you are going to water down your white paint. So you want to add just a little bit of water to a section of your white paint, and then you're going to grab a pencil, another paintbrush, and you are going to tap, and that is going to start creating this really cool snow effect. So I'm going to do it all over because I want him to be really snowy. And then just like that, you have an adorable little holiday snow penguin. So we are so thankful that you joined us painting this today, and we want to see your masterpiece and your work of art. So make sure that you send us a picture of it. You can do it on Facebook, Instagram, email, bring it into the studio. Any way that we can see your work, we want to see it. And also show it off to somebody in your family or your neighbor or a friend so that they can be proud of you also. Thank you so much for painting with us today, and we look forward to painting with you again soon.